So I'm in today, Premier Gym, Coalville. I've got a lower workout plus one arm exercise, which is a Triceps D-handle pushdown. If you'd have seen my last couple of YouTubes, so the leg workout, what I'm actually doing today, you know exactly what I do for a warm-up in terms of the hip opening exercises. And if you'd have seen my upper workout, you would have seen exactly what I did in terms of the core activization, which was from the dead bug. So today is actually a little bit different in the sense that I'm at a different gym, Premier Gym Coalville, instead of the warehouse gym. So the exercises are going to be slightly different, but the format of the session is the same. The only difference today is that I'm doing a deload, which means I'm going to actually reduce my working sets during the session. So actually it's a de-volume session, but I'll talk about that a little bit more once we get started. So today is a deload session for me. It's focused mainly on reducing my training volume. So there's different ways to approach a deload. One option could be to reduce your training intensity. So instead of training to failure, you might do your exact same session, but sort of work at about 60 to 70% of your maximum. Another way how to approach the deload is actually reducing down your working sets or reducing down your volume. This is called a de-volume training session. So for me, this is my approach, and how I approach that is just performing my top sets within a workout. So if I have a top set and a back off sets, which will give me 2 sets in total, I actually only take my top set and perform that at normal intensity. For me, I prefer this method because I like to train still to failure. Training at a low intensity, 60 to 70%, which I mentioned before, just isn't my style. So depending on your needs, depending on what is going to help you to recover during this deload period, will sort of dictate which approach you decide to take. I always find single leg, lying leg curl is really challenging. What you can use when I'm working bilaterally, so when I'm working both legs together, is completely different to when I'm working a single leg. There's not much on the stack, but having this in as my first exercise is great because it's working my hamstring in a shortened range, which is perfect because it helps that mind muscle connection. Later on in the session, when I start to work in a lengthened range, I'm already prepared because I've already got that connection, which is going to come from working the shortened range first. So the one set there, as you can see, worked to failure, and that's my approach of a devolume training session. This is just literally going to set the standard for the rest of the session. All sets to failure, but just reducing the number of working sets. If you'd have watched my last lower workout, you would have seen that I talked about keeping your hips down and working on your stability. So you really keep all the focus on your quads when you're doing a leg extension. So you can do that by using wrist wraps, what's going to keep you pulled in, holding on to the handles. Or another option is using the seat belt. So I'm going to give this a go today, sort of see how this feels. I've never used a seat belt before on a leg extension, so I'm intrigued to see how that feels, not having to really think about keeping myself pulled in from having wrist wraps on. So one of the questions you're probably thinking is, when should I deload? There are going to be common signs of when you should actually deload, which are around sore joints, feeling physically and mentally drained, lacking motivation or enthusiasm for training, and also poor sleep. These are all signs that you probably do need to deload. Now, a deload is there as a pre-designed recovery tool. It's not an excuse to do nothing. But the important thing here is to listen to your body's biofeedback when you actually need that deload. So within your training plan, within your timeline, you'll have a set time allocated for when you should deload. But it's important to listen to the biofeedback from your body. By this, I mean, if you're saying that you should deload after 6 weeks, but at 6 weeks you feel fine, you adjust that timeline. Nothing is set in stone. Listen to the biofeedback from your body and look out for the signs which I mentioned before. Definitely a fan of the seat belt for helping to keep pinned in on a leg extension. Like I said, this is the first time I'm actually using it on a leg extension, but it helped me to sort of take the focus off trying to stay strapped in with the wrist wraps. Don't get me wrong, I probably could have used those still, But for me, still with my shoulder, what I was finding when I'm still holding on with the wrist wraps, I feel a little bit more tension through my shoulder than what I want to feel. So this just helped keep me pinned in. Didn't have to focus so much on my shoulders, but keeps the hips down, everything through the quads. Definitely a thumbs up for me. So I'll be using this again in future leg extension exercises. So first compound exercise today is the Cybex squat press. I am still doing my feeder sets even though this is a devolume training session. So you can see I've got 5 plates per side here, which for some people you might say that's a lot of weight to use for a feeder set or for your warm-up sets. But for me, I know how much weight I can lift on this machine. So I'll start with a weight what's comfortable for me. Because ultimately, I don't want to waste energy and time doing less weight when I know essentially this is a good weight for me to start off for my feeder set. So that's an important point within your sessions, within your workouts. Don't waste time or energy in your feeder sets and your warm-up sets. Some exercises won't even require you to do a warm-up set or a feeder set once you've got warm and into your workout. So know when to use it and how it can benefit you, but also know, don't waste too much time taking away the energy and strength you need from your main working sets. So my last workout, leg workout, what you've seen filmed, I was using the Nitram leg press. The Nitram leg press was a 45-degree leg press. At this gym here, there is one just behind us, but I prefer to use the squat press. The machine here sort of sticks and it doesn't feel as smooth as the Nitram leg press. So my whole theory behind this is, away from the gym where I sometimes do a leg workout, is what I'm trying to do here is mirror the same sort of muscle groups what I'm using on the previous session, which will be mainly my quadriceps. Hamstrings will always come into play on the press movement, as it will here. For me, this feels most comfortable. You'll see how I set up. I take my feet wide, almost like a 10 to 2 clock position. This allows me to get greater range of movement, but it also allows me to get that little bit deeper into that stretch as well. For me, range of movement is very, very important. Another thing you'll see I'll do as well, as I come down into the lower part of the exercise, I'm keeping my back fixed into the backrest and also keeping my core tight. This is allowing me to create more stability. The more stability I can create through my core, as I'm pressing that weight back up, it's going to allow me to generate more force with getting that weight back up. If I had a spot here, I would have definitely gone for one more rep, but the load what I'm moving here to risk a 50-50 rep is just not worth it. But I can tell that I'm feeling freshest today in this workout, because the last time I've done this exercise, I was actually down by 2 plates and I didn't get as many reps. So again, a reason when to take a deload or take a rest is when your training performance starts to dip. And mine was definitely dipping the last time. So today, just me being able to lift more load, which I know I could from how my feeder sets felt, allowed me to get more from my workout. So again, this is a useful sign. A deload is needed, and listen to the biofeedback from your body. Motivation for today is through the roof. Training performance is already increased, and that's the job of a deload. So one of the things that goes through my mind when I'm lifting that sort of weight on a pivot leg press is, how am I gonna get that weight back up if I get stuck at the bottom? And in my mind, I can't get stuck at the bottom. So this is where I've got to make sure I stay really accurate with that set, control that weight down. I know that if I can control that weight down, I can drive it back up. And when I'm in that set, it's something deep within what tells me that if I want to get the most out of my training and I want my legs to grow, I've got to move that weight. And for me, I need bigger legs. And that's only going to come about from progressive overload. So using more weight, being able to do more reps over a period of time. And that essentially is going to lead to greater progress and greater physique development. But in that moment, lifting that weight, there's no room for error. And this is why taking those feeder sets are very, very important. If it's lifting a lot on a compound weight, take 3 sets, 4 sets if it's needed. But make sure you're warm and ready to go before you lift that weight. Another like for like machine than what I used when I trained this last session at the warehouse gym. The only difference here, this Predator Strength, the foot plate is adjustable, so I can slide it further away from my body, bring it closer in, and I can adjust the height as well. This is good because I can set it up for what's perfect for me. So depending where I sort of want to bias, so here I want to bias more my quads, will dictate how I set up the foot plate. Depending what you're doing within your own training program will dictate how you set up the foot plate. But the key, most important point is setting it up so it's comfortable for you to do this exercise safe and effectively. Can I get a spot? Can I get a spot?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Sorry,
That's all good. So again, it's one of them. My deload, or my version of a devolume session, is going to failure, and that for me just shows again went to failure. It's happened before. Sure, it won't be the last time I get pinned at the bottom, but happy with this set. When I did this last week, I only got 7 reps. I think I just failed going for the 10th rep there, so progress has been made. So I've got to try not to get pinned in there next time. This is my first session back since I started my deload. So how this is comprised is it's over a period of 1 week. So the first 3 days I had complete rest, no weights, no cardio, just 10K steps, which is acting as active recovery. So I'm still moving around, getting expenditure, helping digestion, as my food has obviously increased after this sort of initial diet phase. The next 3 training sessions over the period of this week are going to be devolume sessions. Now, It's naive to think that coming back in after 3 days, I'm going to feel fresh. It's just not going to work like that. It takes time still to drop the fatigue, what's been accumulated over the last set of weeks in the last training block. So, devolume session today, being able to progress the lifts, but it's still not going to be enough to get me out of the hole that has been built up from the last training block. So, the next 3 sessions, lower training volume. Then when I come to the second week of training, it will be essentially my first training week back on full volume. That's how I plan my deloads for myself, but also for my clients as well. See here, I literally just done my one working set. I didn't need to take a warm-up set or a feeder set because my hamstrings are already fatigued. Using the seated leg curl now, I'm working in the lengthen range. Having the stability of having the knee pad over my quads, also using a seat belt, allows for a better bracing position. So working my hamstrings now in the lengthen range when my hamstrings are already fatigued is perfect. So this is why the seated leg curl is later in my workout, because it allows for better bracing, but my hamstrings are already fried. So I'm literally getting the most out of it. Doing the lying leg curl does require a little bit more skill in the sense that you have to create that stability or that bracing point through your body itself. With this seated leg curl, you don't have to do that. My last exercise today is the calf press. I'm actually going to take 2 sets here. When I also done my first exercise, which was the Triceps D-handle pushdown, I done 2 sets there. All my other exercises, I only done 1 set. The reason for that is the smaller muscle groups, so my triceps, also my calves, is easier to train and it's less taxing. So this is why I've got more sets for those muscle groups. So 3 sets now become 2, so 2 sets here. On my other leg exercises, where I've got 2 sets, they become 1. So essentially, 2 top sets here, I'm going to be performing just like I did with my triceps as well. So when I was out in America, obviously very hot, so I was wearing shorts quite a lot. I actually got quite a few compliments for my calves, which it's nice to get compliments for your other body parts, but for calves, especially for a guy, I think that's a really big thing. And this is an exercise what I think has actually really helped me. Before, I was doing the standing calf raise and also the seated calf raise. So I've still got the seated calf raise programmed, but I think actually using this calf press allows me to get a little bit more accurate than a standing calf raise. I think sometimes when I see people do a standing calf raise, where the exercise breakdown is, when they're coming down into the stretch and they're coming back up, they bend the knee, so they're not keeping the tension on the calves. Using this is replicated a standing calf raise, you're in a seated position. It's harder for you to bend your knee to actually get that full range of movement through your calves. So this will be a good addition or a good exercise to use instead of the standing calf raise to target your calves. So that is my lower D volume session wrapped up with one arm exercise as well. I've now finished my diet phase. For any of you who's been following along in my recent posts on Instagram or also following my YouTube channel, you understand that I've been dieting. So I've just done just under 12 weeks worth of dieting, and in that time I've gone from 127.8 kg to 117.3 kg. So a total of 10.5 kg off within just under 12 weeks. And when I factor in that time that I actually went to America, I was out there for 2 weeks, I think it was 3 off-plan meals in total. I've also had some clean refeeds within that time period as well. And for me to know that I can go through a dieting phase the way I have done without actually smashing my body, so to speak, to get in shape, where previous preps I've done up to 2 hours cardio, calories have gone stupidly low, and steps have been super high. My steps for this diet phase have been between 10,000 to 12,500. Don't get me wrong, some days it went above 12,500 just because day to day, moving around, cooking, cleaning, whatever, it does increase. But for me, it gives me an insight into what it would be if this was a competition prep. From where I'm at now, if I was able to compete physically and get into my poses, I'll probably be about 4 weeks out. And for me, that's a very exciting thing to know that I can get into shape, and I can get into shape without absolutely smashing my body to get into condition. And this gives me a great insight into the future. And with everything, whatever phases you go through, so I can't compete now, I still approach each phase the way I would if I can compete. So I've finished my diet phase now. I'm now going back up into a surplus and pushing up body weight. And with anything, you need a clear vision, and a timeline gives you exactly that. And without a timeline, you're stabbing in the dark. And for me, it gives me a focus. So my focus for the past 12 weeks was dieting. Now my focus now is to increase the food slowly and growing lean. And with everything you're doing, you've got to know that you always want to progress. And although I'm limited in what I can do with my upper body, I've definitely taken a progression forward. The last time I dieted, I wasn't this lean. And anyone who's going through sort of a competition prep phase now or thinking about competing, always start from a lean set point. So if you look at my condition now, you could say, Mark, you could do a show in 3-4 weeks. That's right. That's how you should start a push-up phase, because when you grow and you grow slowly, what that's going to do is allow for more runway for you to actually progress your physique in growing lean. And then when you diet back down, you'll diet back down and you won't necessarily have to smash yourself to get in shape. Don't get me wrong, it's different for everyone. For me, this was quite easy to get into this condition, but your start point will ultimately dictate what your prep or what your dieting phase will look like. So that's enough from me. Finished talking. Gonna go and get my post-workout in, but again, I appreciate everyone who takes the time to watch my YouTubes and leave a comment as well. And watch out, because I'm gonna keep this rolling, and I appreciate you all. And the usual, like, share, and subscribe.